Because when we were 6 million, we moved in this shop and I bought the business. We could have just stayed there and I didn't need a general manager. I didn't need account managers. I didn't need to find more space for all our equipment. We could have sat there and my life would have been easy, but we would have lost good people. We wouldn't have created opportunities, and that's why we grow.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. This is Marty Grunder from Grunder Landscaping Company and the Grow Group. Thanks for downloading the Grow Show. Today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the best snow and ice professionals in the world, Bob Marks from EMI Landscape in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I got it right. We're talking snow removal. We're talking ice control at a large scale. We're talking real operations, real lessons. But first, a reminder, you can get the latest edition of the Grow Show delivered to your phone, tablet, or computer by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts, or watch us on YouTube for an enhanced learning experience. The Grow Show is the greatest thing since, and here's a crazy one, folks, a power outage. I recently had a power outage at home, no power, and the generator that I bought didn't work either. First world problem, I know, but something interesting happened. With no distractions, I read an entire book in 2 days. It reminded me how much better we operate when the noise goes away. So maybe fake a power outage for your family sometime. Put the phone down and see what actually makes you better. All right, let's get into it. Today, we're joined by an incredible father, a business owner, a husband, and a snow and ice removal control expert, a landscape maintenance contractor. Earlier this year, folks, Seth, our president, and Bill, our director of production operations, they flew out to see Bob in the Allentown area to meet Bob and his team. I guess, Bob, it's actually the Lehigh Valley area. Is that,
Yep.
Would that be a way to define it?
Yep.
And man, when Seth came back, he said, Marty, you've got to get Bob on the show. So here we are. Bob, for those of us that are on the show today that don't know you, tell us about yourself, and I'll fill in the missing points because you've got a really unique story to how you eventually ended up at EMI. So take it away, Bob.
Well, thanks, Marty. It's a lot of nice words. So it was nice having Seth visit us, right? I learned a lot from him as well. But I started in the industry age 10, right? Washing enclosed trailers. I mean, it was the landscape industry mostly at that time. So washing enclosed trailers, hand weeding HOAs, all that. I always joke with my mom, who I was working with. I went out for like my 13th birthday and got the worst case of poison ivy ever, hand weeding. So it goes way back.
Did you get it in your eyes?
It was, I don't want to tell you where it was, Marty. It was just everywhere.
I know.
Right?
I said eyes to be nice, but I know the other spot you got it in. Trust me.
Yeah. So it was, it's a good joke that for my 13th birthday, I got poison ivy, but, yeah. So I did that growing up all through high school. And then as a young kid, I was like, I'm going to find anything else to do. Right. And I went to auto mechanic school. I was really into cars, and I got accepted into the Audi manufacturer program. And then when that ended, I got hired at an Audi dealership down in Washington, D.C. Lived down there for 5 years, had a lot of fun, grew up though, and realized my future was not there. And then the crazy part, how I came back, is my stepdad, who founded the company, he had an injury. He had broken his hands a few months earlier and then ended up breaking his other forearm. So he's got a hand that's maybe 50% functional, and then an arm that's now 0% functional. So I called my business where I was working at, and I said, hey, I got to take a week off. I got to go help the family. And I came back and I joke I was literally Ed's right-hand man because he didn't have a working right arm. And that was in May of 2008. And then I went back for 4th of July to visit family, and they made an offer for me to come back and learn the business. It took me 6 months to make it back. I was having fun in DC, but I came back in March 2009 and then worked every role in the company. At that point, we were 7 people. It was my stepdad and I each running a team, and my mom running the office and hand weeding and picking up trash and doing everything else. Up until 2021, in the middle of COVID, I decided it would be a great idea to buy a business. So my stepdad retired, I bought the business, and so that was now over 5 years ago, and that's where we are now.
And tell us a little bit about the number of employees, the trucks, your sales. Give us a little bit of depth of understanding.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've hit some big growth spurts. When I came back, we were doing about 700,000 in revenue, and there were 7 of us. So now we're up to full-time employees around 70. Seasonal employees for winter is another 80 or so. So a snowstorm, we're 150 employees. Last year, we were able to break 13 million in revenue. So it was a big,
incredible, absolutely incredible.
yeah. It was, we were hoping for 12 and we were a little behind on landscape, and then snow came in December and just was able to catapult us through there. So we're at that weird size, Marty, 13. We have to kind of grow from here.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Oh,
stay at this
brother,
side.
I can relate, and the funny thing is, like, when I was 4.5, 5 million, and I heard everybody saying that, I'm like, I don't understand what the big deal is. And now we did close to 18 last year, and we got to get out of this. I mean, the struggle is real. It requires, there's just a lot. It requires a lot of money to grow. It's not easy. There's a lot of growing pains, aren't there?
Yeah. Yeah. I always thought we were a weird size for the company. When we grew to 8 million, it kind of felt strange until we got to that 10, and we only sat there for a little while. And I believe the infrastructure needed for a $13 million company is similar to 20 million, yet it doesn't support it financially. So there's a lot of investments we're making now because that's where we're going. We're going to 20 million in the next few years, and we're building that team and infrastructure today for it.
So I want to focus on the snow part of your business today, because we've got a lot of contractors that are in the snow business. We're growing in that area, as you know, and we haven't had you're a pretty large snow operator. I wanted to go through that. You've got one of the coolest fleets in the industry. I know that Mack Trucks is a major client of yours, and one of your trucks even made the Mack calendar. I think do you take care of their factory?
Yeah, so there's a manufacturing plant right down the street from us. So we take care of the manufacturing plant in McCountree, Pennsylvania, and then across the street they've got their parts warehouse that we maintain as well. And then they also have their customer experience center here in Allentown. So they've got a nice place there with a test track and an off-road track that we maintain as well. And then there's a few satellite locations where they just store trucks for shipping. So
a test track for a Mack truck.
Yes. So it's one is just a nice round track that they get to drive the truck fast. And then they've got some that's an off-road course where they've got, metal railroad ties in the ground, the truck to hit and really show when a client buys a truck, what the capabilities are.
So if you're watching us on YouTube, take a look at the fleet. Walk us through your snow fleet, Bob, like what equipment you're running. Talk about the large sites and how you maintain those. Give us a little bit of depth into the scope of what you're doing.
Yeah. So equipment wise, I made a large investment / gamble a few years ago. Our fleet had gotten pretty mismatched, right? We had old Case skid steers, we had new Kubota skid steers, and then loaders were just 4 or 5 different brands. And we're up to 60 pieces of heavy equipment. And it was just the parts and figuring out who's in what machine was too much. So we sold 90% of our equipment in 2024 and bought new. So we had a lot of Hyundai loaders, which we still have some that were on lease or we purchased off a lease that we really liked. But Case Construction really stepped up and offered us a deal that made a lot of sense. I feel like Case has made a large push in our industry as far as knowing what snow contractors want, and they really partnered with us and it made a difference. So we run a lot of Case 621s, a lot of Case 321 compact loaders, and then some of their 280 skid steers. So there's that. We don't plow much with trucks. So the trucks are mostly salt trucks, supervisor trucks. Some of them have plows because it doesn't cost a loader costs a lot of plow.
You need them for touch up or an emergency or whatever, service call.
Yep. So, and then we also have, because Mack Trucks is owned by Volvo, anything we do for Mack Trucks is all Volvo equipment. If Volvo makes it, we own it. So that's why we've got that Mack MD7 as their dedicated salt truck, and then Volvo loaders, which are really nice. We got last year we bought new L60s and L45s, and that L60 is the Cadillac of loaders, which maybe dating me a little bit, but it is really nice. So that, and then
you don't mind being in that thing for 20 hours, huh?
Yeah. No, it's the operator. He's one of our best operators, and he didn't even want to get in it. He's like, this thing's too nice, but now I can't get him out of it. So but all that equipment, that's the heavy stuff. But what goes on the front of it, I found, is the biggest difference, right? So whether it's a push box or a plow, for the type of work we do, which we can get into that clientele, but we use hydraulic wing plows on every piece of equipment we own. So I'm an efficiency freak, and when I'm in a 30,000 pound loader and we just have a fixed push box on the front that's spilling both directions, it drives me nuts anymore. So
Yeah.
we made a huge investment 2 years ago, just in more Metal Plus wing plows. And
Shout
now,
out to our man, Jordan Smith.
yep, bought a lot from Storm Equipment, bought a lot from, there's a local dealer by us called Western Lehigh that we bought Metal Plus plows from. And this year we bought 16 of a new brand that's not fully out there yet, and people should look out for it at some upcoming events. There's a new player in the market that makes a unique plow that we got a lot of hours on. We help them kind of test it, and it does some really neat things that's not out there. So we really found the implements on the front are almost as important as a machine, because you put a small plow on a $200,000 loader, and it's just, you're not getting the efficiency out of that machine. So when we made that investment, we went from 60 pieces of heavy equipment down to 50 to do the same amount of square footage. So we reduced our fleet by almost 15% and did the same amount of work.
And give us a feel for how many plows and saltings you'll do there in Allentown.
So our average snowfall is 33 inches a year. So plowable events, normally around the 5 to 10 events per year.
Okay.
This year's been a good year. We've had a lot of events. We've plowed more than that. I think we broke 40 inches for the year. So it's a average snow market. We're not Buffalo, New York, but we're not in the southern, but where we're at in the Lehigh Valley is extremely variable year to year. We're one of the highest standard deviations for snowfalls. So our average is 30.
Is that because of the mountains or what?
Yeah, I think the mountains, we are prone for the nor'easter type storms that can
come up from the south.
Yep. So when you get,
I got it.
And that can be 25 inches in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so the one year you're getting 55 inches, the next year,
it's funny because we're recording this on a Friday and we were going to do it on a Monday. And you texted me over the weekend and said, "Hey buddy, I hate to tell you this, but they're calling for a foot of snow." And I ended up getting stranded at my daughter's house in Connecticut during the blizzard. She got 18 inches of snow. My wife says you can't say you're stranded if you're at your daughter's house. So we ended up having to delay this. And you ended up, I think you got 5 to 7 inches in this last one.
Yep. The heart of the storm was over New Jersey and just off the coast. And, I really nerd out about snow, but the storm was so powerful that us being on the outer edge of it, it actually pulled in a bunch of dry air from past us into our area. So the models all along were showing a foot to 18 inches. And then a day or two before, one of our weather service says, "I don't see that happening." And he explained the full physics behind it. And he was right. It just dry air came in. It is unbelievable the amount. The more I know about weather, the more I'm amazed they ever get it right, because there's so many factors that go into it. But yeah.
So let's get kind of tactical here. Do you buy or lease the equipment, and why? How long do you keep it? Give us a little bit of background into that part of it.
So right now we own everything. We bought everything, which is, I joke with people, is great as long as it snows, right? It's a big risk. And I've only been the business owner, like I said, for now it's 5 years and 2 months. And, Marty, I know you preach knowing your numbers, and I know numbers, but not like I do now. And, I'm looking at our debt schedule, and, we have millions of dollars of debts that, as long as it snows, it's fine. But our balance sheet can be ugly from time to time.
I get it.
So right now we purchase everything. Our local case dealer is working on leases for this year, where I might not be able to buy every year. Leases are nice on the cash flow. They're nice to turn over a piece of equipment, and you still have the option at the end to purchase. So right now we own everything. I would expect going into this season, we'll have our plan and purchase or acquire relatively soon. And I would think this year will be leases, just to ease on the cash flow.
Okay. And how long do you typically keep the machine? So if you bought a machine like that Volvo over at the Mack plant, how long will you keep that?
So I don't have that fully figured out either yet. The financial plan is 5 years to pay it off. We're looking in that 5 to 8 year range.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And you'll have residual value on it, trading in on a new one. I mean, they're probably not getting a tremendous amount of hours during the summer.
No, very little,
it's
right?
Not like a loader in a gravel pit or a cement plant that's, nonstop getting beat to death like that.
No, and we're learning a little bit better for consistent hours. So our full size loaders on an average year for snow only get about 100 hours. And then from there, some of them will get some hours loading mulch. We most of our mulch gets delivered to job sites, so they're loading our mulch blowers. But 95% of the hours on all the loaders will be winter.
Okay.
Our compact loaders end up around 75 hours, and then the skid steers between that 50 and 75. So, if we own a loader for 8 years, it's 800 hours. That's a year worth of hours in the construction world. So
right.
We believe we'll have residual hours. We maintain the equipment. Case and Volvo are both going to hold their value pretty well. So,
yeah.
With the large purchase I made so much at one time, I'm trying to figure out exactly how to, it may not all be the same time, kind of phase it out. So it's not
right.
such a big purchase.
And then I would think one of the strategies, there'd be two strategies behind buying new. First, the depreciation. And then secondly, the upkeep. You're not going to have a lot of failures on brand new stuff up front. And if they are, it's warranty.
Yeah. And, our ideal client, we really narrowed it down. It's zero downtime facilities, places that can't afford to close, which means we can't afford to fail. So when we're having older,
you can't have a rickety rack loader you're the third owner of it.
Exactly. So everything is new, whether we buy it or lease it, we maintain it, and it's one of those things.
Do you do the maintenance yourself, like the oil changes in that? I know and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I mean it in a jovial, complimentary way. You're a motorhead. So you and I have a lot in common. I love talking to you, but we couldn't talk cars because you know way more about that stuff than I do.
I know about it, but I can't fix anything anymore. I've lost it. It's not like riding a bike. I've lost that skill.
Well,
but
I bet you know more than I do. I'm worthless.
So we have a great mechanic who's been with us for 4 or 5 years. We've known him for 20. So he's with us, and he's got a younger guy now who is much more experienced in the small engine world. So that frees up a lot of his time, but who's learning the big stuff as well. On the larger loaders, they come with some service for the first couple of years. So when they hit a certain amount of hours, a trigger gets sent to the dealership. They let us know they're coming out to change the oil, to do the service. And then the smaller ones, we're doing ourselves pretty much in the off season.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Any equipment mistakes you made early on that people could learn from? I see one, like you bought new because you're dealing with facilities that are open all the time. You can't afford it. Was there any other equipment mistakes you made?
I think I just didn't understand all the different options that are available. So if you are purchasing new or looking through the used market, simple things like 4 or 5 speed transmission and why would you want one or the other in a big machine? Do you want limited slip axles or do you want locking differentials? There's more options on these new machines than I ever knew. And then I think the mistakes I made were thinking I didn't need certain options, maybe just because I wasn't ready for it. We didn't have the quick couplers on all the machines. Well, we were just putting boxes that we chained on. So now I'm looking at machines that we have that don't have the quick coupler.
Yeah.
And it's costing me $10,000 to put a quick coupler on the front that would have been $4,000 from the factory.
Bob, as I'm listening to you, these are so I hope this makes sense. You talking like that is like the equivalent to me teaching about procurement, because I think there's a lot of owners, they don't understand equipment. Like I have Seth and I have Bill and I have Zach here, and they're all into equipment. Like they understand it, they know that stuff. But me, I wouldn't know that. And if I'm just jumping around in this business trying to make it work, I could go buy a loader, think I did good, and now it needs a quick attach, and it's another $10,000. And I'm like, what the heck? Procurement in companies, people don't realize that can kill you, and you don't see it. It's like a drip. So I'm listening to you like, gosh, there's so much you got to be paying attention to in the snow business. I hope folks that are listening here are paying attention to what you're seeing if they decide to grow or get a new machine about the quick couplers, because you're right.
Yeah, and for a little while, I think I went from one extreme to the other, right? My mechanic background, I was all about machines. I was a mechanic for the company for a little while. When we didn't need one, I just fixed everything. And then once I bought the business, I was not distracted. I had a lot of other roles to take care of. And my thought was, if it's got 4 tires and pushes snow, it's all the same. And I think I let it go because I almost didn't want to lean into my equipment background. I thought I was almost trying to watch out for my bias, and I went too far the one direction. And the more we went back into it, and to really think about the answer, I think the mistake I made was not partnering with the local dealer that I could have these conversations with, right? I just said, what could I do? I want this and this.
I mean, this sounds trivial, Bob, but maybe go to lunch with, like, just talk, like just be around and learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our local dealer, they're a big case dealer, PowerCo. I don't go 2-3 weeks without talking to them. Either I'm reaching out to them or they're reaching out to us. And they've been such a big partner for us, and they've taught me all the different things I should be looking for and the possibilities that I just would not have known if I didn't build that relationship with them.
Yeah. You do a lot of large warehouses, industrial properties. You mentioned it sounds like zero tolerance properties that have to be open no matter what. We have a few of those. We don't have enough, but we have a few. We have a few schools, and actually, we've come to like the schools because they're closed usually when there's snow, and you can put them at the end of their list. And we found them to be good fill-ins. But what's different about snow at the scale that you're doing in terms of the whole thing, the mechanics of doing the work, the operational part, but then also the pricing, the scope? Like, just give us a little bit of wisdom there.
Yeah. So the pricing and the scope, I think the key is making sure for us, for what we're pricing on this industrial level, is that the client wants what we're offering, because we're not offering, like you said, the schools, we're not set up to go do something at the end of our route. We're dedicating equipment to large sites, and that costs a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
That equipment,
Right.
some of the work we do for Mack Trucks, I told them just what my payments are a year on the equipment to keep them open, and they were flabbergasted, right? It's hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments every
Right.
year. So making sure the client wants what we're offering, because if they don't want it,
That is so well said, Bob.
that,
Making sure the client wants what we're offering, getting expectations clear up front.
yeah,
And
and
quite frankly, even if you're not in the snow business, let's just say you're in Tampa, Florida, listening to the Grow Show today, and you're interested in business, there's a great lesson that applies to all businesses, making sure that you want what we offer.
and it requires a lot of saying no, right? And I don't like doing that, and it was uncomfortable, but
And why don't you like doing that?
well, it's honestly a lot of internal, right? So if we have someone new in sales and they have leads and they're excited, and for me to tell them no, but saying no, well, I'm a people pleaser, Marty.
Yeah.
I want people to be
Yeah.
happy, but what I've really found is that if we say yes, to something we shouldn't, we do a bad job, and then no one's
Yeah.
happy anyway. So
And Bob, I think you're younger than I am. I think that's an incredible lesson. We've got Bob Marks on with us today from EMI Landscape, Allentown, Pennsylvania. He's a former Audi car mechanic in Washington, D.C., bought his stepdad's business 5 years ago, and now we're listening to you throw down some gold here. And you're absolutely right, because you don't grow a business by saying no, okay? You say yes most of the time, but those things that you're talking about, those are distractions. They're going to cost you money. They're not a fit, and you know that. And so I think it's more of a question of, how do I tell somebody no in a nice way? That's what I think. I totally get what you're saying as far as it being a little demoralizing to the salesperson. But I think the longer the salespeople are with you and they understand that you're not going to get a referral from the one you say yes to and then you screw it up or it's not a fit, Mac will give you a referral.
mm-hmm.
If there's another factory anywhere around there and you're in good with the plant manager, you say, listen, I'm going to have Steve call you from Mac, and I know he'll call you and he'll tell you how good we are. So
Right.
those are the things that can happen.
And something I've learned from you over the years, Marty, we are just very clear now on who we are, where we're going, and who we want to work for. And the more I repeat that, I barely even have to say no, because when I have to say no, it's not really saying no. It's reminding them of what we've already talked about.
Yeah.
And then for clients, it's easy too, because it is just knowing we won't make you happy. You think you want us, but you don't want a company like us, because we're not. Frankly, if we're saying no, it's because we're not equipped to handle them, or they're not going to like our price anyway. So let's just get it out of the way early, and then we try to find someone.
Yeah.
There's enough where we're at in the Lehigh Valley. There's enough work to go around. There's enough good contractors that I know somebody who is ideal for that site that we can recommend and move on from there.
We really only got into the snow in a big way in the last 3 years. We're up to 20 million square feet of parking lots that we maintain now. When the last snow event we had, between ourselves and our subs, we had 200 people out in it. So we've got a pretty significant operation now. But you're right, because you got to say no to some of these, and we're culling some accounts. We've gotten smarter this year. We're going to get rid of some more. But I think, Bob, tell me if I'm wrong. This is a big snow year for our area and your area. It's going to probably make a lot of building owners and managers realize you got to get a reliable contractor. You may not have had one this year. And I think the other thing you're going to see in the next coming years, I think you're going to see more contractors getting back into it, because they think maybe it's a viable business now, and it's going to take them a while to figure it out. There's going to be some more problems from that.
Yeah, this is not an industry just to say one day I want to do snow, or I'm not going to do it this year, but do it the next year. It's such a commitment. And, I think it's something we have a new head of business development here. Her name's Kim, and she is awesome. And she's been at companies that have done snow before. And what she realizes is that a lot of companies sell snow almost as a necessary evil because they do landscape, they need snow. And for us, it's almost two separate businesses. I mean, they feed each other and it works so well, but to get in and out of it. And we need a winter like this. And Marty, I don't love the big storms. I don't love a 2-foot snowstorm. It's hard on your equipment. It's hard on your people. Everything. It's not fun, yet it's necessary every few years to the people who are only getting by on these small storms and taking on more than they're willing to put into it.
Right.
We have to get a reset on why people want EMI, why people want Grunder, right? If we get 20 inches a year and the biggest storms are 2-3 inches, you can do industrial buildings with pickup trucks. You can get by. But when you get a foot or 2 foot, that's where we shun.
That with the F-250.
No, and this year sales should be easier than it's been in a while. We've had some big storms, and like you said, it'll be different depending on if you got the snow or not. We did this year. Sales will be easier than it has been because I know there's been failures all around us because it's the first winter we've gone above average since 2021. It's a reminder why you need a quality snow contractor.
So you mentioned sales there and your business development person. How are you finding new snow clients, and are you actively pursuing more work, or does it come to you?
So we last summer was the first time we had someone in outside sales in the company besides myself. I always say I can close a snow deal, but filling the funnel, we had nothing set up. We're an extremely immature sales organization. Okay. So luckily, word goes around if you're good, right? It's visible, you're on site, the equipment brands itself. And we had a lot of work just come to us. In the middle of the winter, they're calling us saying, we need to make a change. We see your sites look good. Yeah. And we've paired up with some good clients that have grown, and we've grown with them. So, and that gives its own problems, right? We start to have a little bit of client consolidation issues. We need to diversify a little more. So the work has come to us really for the past 15 years. Our growth, we've been word of mouth, our branding and referrals, and we've been really lucky. And now we're turning the heat up a little bit, and we're going after work now. And I think we'll see a big difference in these next 2 years about where we go.
Well, you're in one of our peer groups, so I'm going to see it, and I'm going to love it. And I'm a big fan of Bob Marks, so I'm rooting for you. Let's go into labor. Labor is one of the biggest challenges in snow. I'm just curious to what degree you rely on subcontractors. How do you vet them? How do you hold them accountable? How do you keep them motivated? What's worked and what hasn't with getting labor there? Because you still got sidewalks to do and other things, right?
Yep. So we use subcontractors, and it varies year to year. Somewhere between 30 to 40% of our square footage we subcontract out. It's how the area has gone. We have some outliers that don't make sense for us to self-perform, but they're in a portfolio, or the buildings that were smaller that used to be the big buildings, and now they're building million square footers. And, they're so densely packed together. We have some subcontractors that their shop's right in the heart of where there's just 200,000 square foot buildings, one after another. And they don't even have to place equipment on site, which we're lucky here in Macungie with Mack Trucks and some others. We do the same thing from our location. So we subcontract. And how do we do it? We don't look for sites specifically that we know we're going to sub it out. If we get it, and then I've said this word a few times, it's relationships. We're in the Lehigh Valley where there's a lot of good contractors, and we luckily have good sites, but we treat our subcontractors like we want to be treated, right? They're no different than us. So,
I mean, common sense, but common sense ain't so common.
It's not, right? So when you're, it's very common in our industry right now, Marty. Everybody wants to talk bad about snow brokers, and there is an absolute need for snow brokers. When someone has locations across the country, and to have each location hire someone doesn't make sense. But there are some bad snow brokers out there that really take advantage of the local subcontractors. And we can position ourselves that we pay them faster than we get paid off often, right? We know what goes into it. And, sometimes we're not getting paid from certain clients for 45 days, but we know it's a sub that works with us, the money that goes into being ready. So we treat them like human beings. We don't call them out only for the big ones, and we try to get the small saltings for ourselves because it's profitable. When they have a site, they get to do all of it.
Right. And that's fair. Right.
It is just common sense and fair. And what it's allowed is that, we work with really good companies. So I don't have to worry, are they coming out tonight? Are they ready? Because we talk snow all year. They're just like me. They're just like you. They're into it and they're ready all the time. So the subcontractors, we just are super picky. I think we've had to fire 2 subcontractors in 15 years.
Wow.
It's not common for us, and we haven't added any new in a few years. And, it's not something we actively look for, but when a client comes to us and if we're going to sub it out, we tell them we most likely will. Hey, we can absolutely help you. We have a subcontract does 3 buildings right here. We're going to sub to them, but we're ultimately responsible. So we're not passing it off and running away. We're passing it off, but we're on that call list too. You need something, I'm always on the call list with clients. I'm the owner of the business, a lot going on, but we stand behind what we do for snow. So we have account managers, we've got regional managers to call. But if you can't get a hold of someone, every single client has my number if they need it. Luckily, my team's awesome and almost never get any calls, but it's
just
there.
Incredible what you've done. I mean, really, it's crazy. Go from an Audi mechanic doing all the jobs in there to the spot that you're in. For those of you watching the Grow Show today or listening to the Grow Show, Bob was on the main stage at Grow, and you did an awesome talk with Tracy Wallingford, and you talked about a pit crew and efficiency. And you could give Marty a run for the money here as a speaker, Bob. You're pretty good. So,
I said Tracy.
I might throttle you back a little bit. I feel
Tracy did all the heavy lifting there. She,
well,
like
you
I
did
said,
a great job though. Just to give you some kudos. I think your team enjoys working for you because you didn't stand up there and talk about how great you were. You talked about the things that you had done well, but you were very candid about your mistakes. And I think that's makes you human. And that's the truth. I jumped up on stage at Grow, as you saw, and I talked about the things that we're dealing with here. There's no point in telling a story. That doesn't do anybody any good. I'm not perfect either. Speaking of striving for perfection, snow isn't something you just turn on November 1st. And I do find it somewhat comical when I see people saying, in December or January, well, we're doing our strategic planning. Well, if you're doing it in January or December, I hope it's for the next year. It's not for the upcoming year. So when does snow planning actually start at EMI? What does the preseason look like? Give us a little idea through there, because there's so much that has to be dialed in before that first storm even hits.
Yeah, so snow never really turns off for us anymore. It's year round, whether it's April and May, the equipment's coming back from job sites and it's getting inspected, and any repairs are getting that are needed are getting documented, parts getting ordered, things getting put away, washed, neutralized, all that. And then I always said the Summer Symposium was kind of the kickoff for the new year, which is in June, right? So it's kind of postseason until midsummer. And then when come back from the Summer Symposium, now we're on to winter, 26, 20, 27. So it never really stops. Planning for what we do and the equipment we want. I'm getting pressured right now for my equipment order. They need it. It's not just the world we live in anymore with supply chain issues ever since COVID, right? It's not.
Right. No, it is. I mean, we don't run any Ford trucks anymore because they killed us during COVID. We switched over to Isuzu, and we got a great dealer, Rush Trucks, that's doing good. We like the Isuzu. We still have Ford pickups, but all the other Fords are out because of that.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's tough. So, we don't want just any loader, right? We want a loader with snow tires and a 4-speed and the winter package, all those things. We know what we want, which means we can't ask for it in October.
I see. You're not going to buy that off the lot. You got to order it.
Yep. And again, our dealer, if there's machines available that meet our spec without snow tires, they team up with a local tire dealer that will come swap them out, and they'll buy the brand new tires that were on the case because they'll resell them. And at least we recoup some of that cost if we don't have the snow tires. So, but yeah, the planning is now, the sales goals are there. There's some sales to make probably right now at the end of winter when people are real and happy. There's going to be some phone calls. But yeah, the planning happens year round. We have a weekly snow meeting. We turn it off for a little bit in the summer, but it's happening year round. And you just can't, like you said, Marty, you can't wake up one day and say, "Oh, winter's coming."
No.
There's
And
always
you know what,
there's
Bob, I think there's a lot of contractors that think that way. And quite frankly, just to be completely honest with everyone, I did. I mean, we did snow. We've done snow for a long time, but we did like 10 parking lots and we had like 3 snow plows. That you can probably kind of just run a little bit on a whim, although even that's not advisable. To do it at the scale you're doing it, you have to have that stuff aligned. I mean, there's just so much that goes into all that.
so we kind of finalize equipment and personnel. We hope September, October that we're
Okay.
done for 95% of the sales. We always try to have a little bit of extra equipment. One, it's nice to have some redundancy. Things will break. I think we talked about being proactive with maintenance, but I think your words were, how do you minimize downtime? And that's all you can do is minimize it, because we break stuff every storm.
Yeah.
My mechanic cringes when I'm plowing because he knows I'm going to break something.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but so we always have some extra equipment. And then what it allows is, if the ideal client, if something happens right before the snow season and they want us to come in, we're ready. Or mid-season failures and new client comes to us, we want to be able to have that fleet available to take over. So we hope September, October, we finalize that. Our snow organizational chart, we have a couple managerial positions. We have regional directors that oversee large areas, and underneath them we have regional managers. And we put the job out internally in September, October, when we know how many new regional managers we need to add. And we've always filled that position internally. It's always someone who wants to step up and move up from a sidewalk team leader up to one of our regional managers. And when that's finalized in October, we start our regional manager training. And it's 7 nights of different leadership topics that we go through, so that they're ready, that when we do our boot camp for the rest of the company, our regional managers are trained, they know what's happening, and they're able to assist in the training with everyone else. And we do a couple half-day boot camps for the training. And we start in the morning, some classroom time for whether it's Aspire training, some PPE training, how to be prepared. And then we split up into 4 pods, and they get to go around and how to be safe around large equipment, how to prioritize site, all those different things. And
Yeah.
as much training as you can do for snow when there is no snow. It's one of the
Yeah.
more
Right.
challenging
It
parts.
is. Yeah. But even just that taking up the time, I mean, there's too much to try to do. Okay. It's going to snow next week. We're going to do all of our training.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't work.
We've really tried to focus on how do we train our operators. So when we run 60 pieces of heavy equipment now, everyone running our equipment are seasonal winter workers. They're laid
Got
off
it.
from construction jobs, because at EMI, most of us can run equipment, but we're not equipment operators. We don't run that
Right.
all day. We're commercial maintenance, so we're running mowers
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So I've got some neat ideas, Marty. I'm mounting a projector to the ceiling. We have a guy here who can use Adobe Illustrator and After Effects, that we're going to be able to project a site map down onto a table and
Jeez.
be able to take aerial images overlaying and walk through snowstorms of what happens when you get behind, where the equipment goes, where the routes are. And we're going to use that for training, and we're going to use it for sales to really show a client what happens when a 1,000,000 square foot warehouse doesn't have the equipment you need, and
Yeah.
why we're different.
Right.
So that should be coming up in the next few months. The projector is
So
actually,
just a funny question. Do you have one of those cool brushes that brooms off the top of the trucks?
we do. Yeah. It's called the truck brush. In a couple of our contracts, it's required to have the contract that,
Yeah.
if they
So
don't,
there aren't any of those in here in Dayton that I've seen, and there was a problem with this big snow.
yeah, I don't know. I know it's a Pennsylvania law and whether they enforce it tightly or not, but the trucks have to be cleaned off.
When I was stranded at my daughter's house, they got 18 inches of snow, and that's about what was on top of her car. And it's her first house, and it's a lovely place and everything, but they didn't have a broom that you could go over the top of the car. So I drove the car to the coffee shop Tuesday morning, and I got to the coffee shop and I got out, and a guy looks at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I know." And if he knew I was a landscaper doing this. And then I went to pull out of the coffee shop, and I went up this little hill, and I thought like the muffler was falling off the car or something. I couldn't figure out what the noise was. And I looked out the back window, and this pickup truck load of snow basically came off the top of the car, went down the back and all over the road. And the pile was so big, Bob, the cars were driving around it. I thought, oh my gosh. And I didn't know what to do. I was going to turn around, but I don't know what to do. And I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody drove over it. It probably melted in an hour, but
Yep.
yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder if you got one of those truck brushes.
They work really well. They're not that difficult to use. Once you get set up, it's pretty straightforward. And,
Okay.
it's a great add-on service. It's necessary.
Pretty expensive, I'm sure.
It's expensive. Yeah, the machine itself, the implement itself is not unreasonable, but you're putting it on a $200,000 loader.
Exactly. Right.
And then you got to have someone on the ground to clean up the snow that comes off. And
Right.
some sites we have a spotter, so it's 3 people, so it is hundreds of dollars an hour to set that up, but it's necessary.
The storms are long. You just talked about a spotter. They're stressful. They wear people down. This is the part of the Grow Show today that I'm most curious about. How do you keep them motivated with back-to-back events and the communication? Just talk to us a little bit about your leadership here, and when a storm's going on, what's the best practice there?
All right. So I'll talk about the communication that I think is helpful, and then I'm going to give you some kudos because I've learned a lot from you over the years. But
God bless you. Thank you.
What we found is we expect a lot out of our people. We expect them to show up at crazy times, ready to work long hours. So one thing we really try to do is give as much notice to our team as possible. So we have a rule here. It's called the 48-24-12 rule. So anytime there's snow in the forecast, we try to give our teams 48-hour notice. Just a quick message saying, hey, everybody, there's snow in the forecast. What's today? Friday. Hey, there's snow in the forecast Sunday night. We'll keep you up to date. Let us know if you're not available, right? Like if someone's going to be out of town or they have a wedding, whatever it is, we just try to get that initial heads up of who's available and who's not available. And then 24 hours out. So now Saturday night, we say, hey, storm's still on track. This looks like a real one. They're calling for maybe 3 to 4 inches. Sunday night into Monday morning. We definitely need you. Please confirm you'll be ready. And if you have any referrals, go ahead and send them in now.
Wow, this is great.
So we ask for the referrals because what we don't do is we don't allow referrals to come in when we leave and try to fill out the paperwork right then and there. It's too chaotic. So if we have a referral bonus, and that's, when you asked about labor, like, frontline sidewalk team is the hardest position to staff. We have a pretty beneficial, mutually beneficial referral program for sidewalks. So we don't struggle for sidewalk labor. We make it worth our team's while to find people and bring them in. But then they'll send the referrals in 24 hours early. Our HR sends those referrals a digital form. They fill it out, and their paperwork's done before they ever show up. And then we say 12 just because 48-24-12 makes sense, but it's somewhere in that 6 to 12 hour range when we can make the final call saying, hey, we're going to go out Sunday. We're going to go out tonight at 10 p.m., blah, 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 tell them the whole plan. And that way they're ready because we don't want them showing up in sneakers. We don't want them showing up and say, but I have to leave to go let my dog out later.
Or I don't have a coat or whatever.
We turn down referrals when they show up and they're in jeans and sneakers. We just say, go home now. So that communication has really helped. We've done something for all our full-time employees. We give them an EMI Go bag. It's just a big duffel bag. And the first year we give it to them, we put in wool socks, hand warmers, pocket knife, flashlight, extra hat. And that way they always have a nice duffel bag they can have stock year round. And then Marty, this is what I learned from you. Like, we are asking a lot of our people and it's not easy. And we've really communicated the why of what we do, right? We are the first responders for the first responders. Our service is an emergency service that sure, it's just an Amazon package or whatever it is, but sometimes it's medical. It's people's livelihood. And what we do is so important
or your granddaughter's birthday present. I mean, you never know. There's all that stuff. It's important to them. It's all relative.
So I just think we've communicated to our team of why we're different. And with our core values of expect excellence and passion about work and find a way, it really is a self-regulating group of people that they want to succeed. And then the final part is you have to pay them what they deserve. We're getting near the end of the year and I just wanted to I speak to the whole company usually before every snowstorm. We're at dispatch. We still do stretch and flex at dispatch. We still do our gate checks. We do all those things. And I like to get in front of the company and just, hey, what are we expecting this storm? We go over our core values and we had such
Wow.
a good
Yeah.
year for our operations. I just wanted to reaffirm to everyone, one, we've done an amazing job. And two, this time of year, you never know if it's your last event of the year. And we cannot let up now, because one mistake at the end of the year just puts a bad taste in the client's mouth for the next 8 years. So make sure
Yeah.
we finish strong. And then I tell them, I mean, we have a good bonus program for snow. Snow is profitable. We share a certain percentage of the profit back with everyone. So after my long speech that I think is going to rally everyone because we're doing a great job,
Yeah.
and then I mentioned bonus, and then everybody cheers. So it's like
Yeah.
it's so many factors, right?
I mean, I love this. This is fantastic.
So it's, it snow's a reason we put up all the flags of the countries that our staff is represented by, right? Because we take them, they're literally away from their home country, but they're also away from their home in the US, because
Yeah.
we sometimes work 60
Yeah.
hours a week, all at night, and all they're doing is sleeping all day. And we want EMI to be a place that
Yeah.
we recently changed like what our mission is, and it's to improve,
I saw that.
it's to improve mission critical work environments. And that means EMI itself, right? So we want our place to be great. That, that's why we squeegee, when we come back in for a second night and there's melting snow inside the shop, people are just squeegeeing the floor and singing because they want our place to be special. And it's what I've learned from you. And I think a lot of our successes come down to knowing who we are and why we do certain things. Because if people don't know the why, they just don't care like they should, because they don't know why. And we've been able to communicate that, and it's been a differentiator for us.
What are the biggest challenges for snow today? Is it operations or finances? What keeps you awake at night?
What keeps you awake is I never want to fail. I am super competitive. So what keeps me up at night, just personally, is that I worry about what I can control. So the plan going in, did we prepare enough? Are we making the right call? Because once a storm starts, then it's fun for me, right? It's most of it's out of my hands at this point. Yes, there's decisions to make, but now it's in the hands of 170 other people.
Right.
So,
but you've done your scenario planning, and you've thought through things, and you've heard me a lot. You've heard me say one of my favorite adages that I learned from Dave Sullivan: all planning is good. I don't like it when people say they have absolutes. I just think the older you get, you realize there's very few things that are absolutes. I'm Catholic, and I'm not trying to be funny, but there's been numerous scandals with priests in the history of the Catholic Church. And I had a buddy say all priests are bad. And I said, whoa, 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 stop. All priests are not bad. You can't talk like that. That's not a good absolute. Okay. So I don't like that at all. There were a couple bad apples. Most priests are awesome. All right. I know that. All planning is good. I don't see how you can argue that absolute. I just don't.
No, I agree with you. So having the plan, because the work we do, if you get behind just on an individual event, it's not easy to catch up.
No, it's not.
It multiplies, it gets exponentially worse. So, the difference for the sites we do, it's, if you're behind, you're in trouble. So we are one of the first companies out. I talk to, be talking with our subcontractors, and they're like, hey, what time you going out? And I'm like, we're going to go out at midnight. And they're like, really? Everyone else is coming out at 3 or 4, but we can't afford to have someone slide off the road coming into work because the roads are bad, or just say, hey, the roads are bad, I can't make it in. We're out.
Giving a little bit of on the margin.
Yep. And it's like, like landscaping maintenance, labor is such a huge percentage of what we do. Snow removal, it's a much smaller percentage, right? And, and people don't want to drive in the snow. They don't want to be dangerous getting to work. So we get in early and we're in early, and that way we're not behind. If we burn a couple hours of payroll, it's worth it for what we do on the scale we do it.
It does. Bob, you've really built something special. When you look back at your career, and it's hard to imagine listening to you that you've only owned the company 5 years. Now, you did a lot behind that. And I got to pay you a compliment, because I told you before we went on that I talked to my partner, Vince, because he's gotten to see in action a little bit more than I have. And he said what he finds so amazing about you is that you didn't grow up an entrepreneur, and you bought a business from your stepfather, and you were an Audi car mechanic. And Vince said in his experience, and Vince is now officially getting kind of old. He's no longer a kid. He's in his mid-30s now. He said, it's been his experience, and mine too. A lot of guys like you, they don't grow the business. They're not taking the risk that you're taking. and they're not having success with it, and they don't have your feel for people. And I think Vince is right. I mean, I see that in you too. Like you have charisma. You got guts. It takes guts to do what you're doing. And you have business acumen, and you are an Audi car mechanic. I mean, it's just a cool story. What are you most proud of?
Well, thanks for all that. I mean, I think before I answer what I'm most proud of, I had some advantages, right? So being second generation, I don't think I could have done what Ed, my stepdad did. I don't know if I had that entrepreneur from the ground up, start from nothing. I'm not sure I ever would have done that.
Okay. All right.
So he paved the way. And then as I came into the business, we had different skill sets, but I was able to learn so much about running a small business, the efficiency, the actual doing the work from him. I learned my efficiency from him. He's the efficiency king. And then, my mom in the business, she was dealing with clients and dealing with the people. So I got to kind of learn from both ends. And then I think, the size business where I took over, I think fits my skill sets a little bit different. So some of it worked to my advantage, right? I don't know, without being placed in this situation or finding myself in the situation, I'm not sure I would have got here. So
you're saying your stepdad kind of primed the pump and you kept it going.
Exactly. We got to a size company where he looked at me one day. He's like, this isn't what I pictured. He was really good. He loved everyone coming in, looking at Ed. What are we doing today? And he could organize 15, 20 people, and it was amazing. And then as we started to get to 30 people, he's like, not one person can do this. And he looked at me and said, now you need to start doing this. But I think what I'm most proud of is that we've never lost sight of why we do this. And it's our people, right? Like I was an Audi mechanic. I came back to the business. I was in the field 100% of the time for the first 7-8 years. I did the work. And, we kind of consider ourselves a champion of the blue collar worker.
Right.
I can look out my window over here and, well, not today. It's Friday after a lot of snow, everyone's home, but there's new cars in the parking lot. We have employees buying homes and starting families. And that is the reason we do it, Marty, because when we were 6 million, we moved in this shop and 7 million and I bought the business. We could have just stayed there. And I didn't need a general manager. I didn't need account managers. I didn't need to find more space for all our equipment. We could have sat there and my life would have been easy. Now, who knows how long that would have lasted, but we would have lost good people. We wouldn't have created opportunities. And that's why we grow. I've told our team, we have big goals, but if we can't find good people to join us or good clients who respect the work we do, then we're not going to grow for growth's sake. Right. But as long as we can continue to find those things and provide the opportunity, we're going to keep pushing it.
Well, Bob, I'm honored to have had you on today on the Grow Show. I am honored that we got to share you with everyone at Grow. You're a rising star. You got a lot going for you. You're a nice guy. This nice guy sent me a signed Evan McPherson helmet. He's the kicker for the Bengals. You're just a nice guy, Bob. And I'm so happy to see you be successful. I hear great things from your colleagues in your ACE peer group. I hear great things from Vince and the other facilitators. Tracy adores you. And I know you're probably blushing and I'm showing my man crush. It's awesome when you see someone like yourself. And I was not a good student, Bob. I was not a good student in college at all. I have a degree in business, so people think I'm smart. I mean, I'm not. I was just not a good student. But I'm a lot like you too. Like I just kind of dig in and get it done and figure it out and value people. And I think when you do that, you got a shot because this is a people business.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't take compliments well. You're right. I'm blushing. It makes me uncomfortable, but I think we are building something special here where
there's no question.
We have some people choosing to join our team over other offers, I think, because of what we built here. And that's, I think the biggest compliment I can get is that super high performers who could go where they want to go are choosing to join our team. And that's everything to me.
Yep. Well, keep posting pictures out with your daughters and your wife. And I'm sure I'll see you soon. Really appreciate having you on today. Thanks, Bob.
All right. Thanks so much, Marty.
All right, folks. Bob Marks from EMI Landscape in the Lehigh Valley, Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's going to do it for this week's edition of The Grow Show. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to The Grow Show. And if you can, give it a rating or share a comment. That helps more success-minded landscape professionals find us. And if you really want to help us, take out your phone right now and share this episode with your team or any landscape pro or snow pro you know that helps more successful, success-minded landscape pros and snow pros find us. Thanks for joining us on The Grow Show this week. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grow Show, and thank you to Bob Yard for their support of this episode. Visit growgroupinc.com for more resources to help your landscaping company succeed. We'll talk to you next week.